The wedding day came like a storm. The young girl sat quietly in her small room, her eyes red from crying through the night. She was dressed in a beautiful gown, but her heart was heavy, filled with sorrow she could not hide. Everyone outside was busy preparing for the celebration guests were gathering. Music was playing and food was being served. To the world, it looked like a day of joy. But for her, it was a day of loss, the day her freedom and dreams were taken away. She was only a girl, still carrying hopes of school, laughter with friends, and the dream of one day marrying someone she loved. But life had different plans. Her family was poor, struggling to survive. When the proposal came from a wealthy old man, her parents saw it as a blessing. They told her this marriage would secure her future and save the family from hardship. She begged them to reconsider. She cried until her voice was gone, but no one listened. They said, "This is for your own good." And so, here she was, dressed like a bride, but feeling like a prisoner. The mirror in front of her reflected a face too young for the weight she was about to carry. Her hands trembled as the women of the house fixed her veil. They whispered kind words, but their eyes showed pity. Everyone could see her sadness, yet no one could stop what was about to happen. When the time came, she walked slowly toward the wedding hall. Every step felt heavy, as if her feet were chained. The guests turned to look at her. Some smiled, pretending everything was normal. Others whispered to each other, shaking their heads. They could see the tears running down her cheeks, but they stayed silent. No one dared to question the marriage of a rich old man to a poor young girl. The old man stood at the altar, waiting. His hair was gray, his face lined with years of life, and his posture stiff with age. He did not smile much, but his eyes followed her closely. She avoided his gaze, afraid of what her future would look like with him. As she reached the altar, her knees felt weak, but she kept walking because she had no choice. The ceremony began. The priest's voice echoed through the hall, speaking words of blessing, but to her, they felt like words of farewell. Farewell to her childhood, to her freedom, to the dreams she once carried in her heart. When it was her turn to speak, her voice broke. She whispered the vows with trembling lips, tears streaming down her face. The guests shifted uncomfortably, but no one interrupted. Some thought she was simply nervous. Others knew the truth but chose silence. The old man placed the ring on her finger. His hands were rough, much older than hers, but surprisingly gentle. She shivered, not from his touch, but from the weight of reality pressing down on her. She forced herself to stand still, though inside her heart screamed for escape. She wanted to run, to shout that this was not her choice. But her body refused to move. When the priest announced them husband and wife, the hall erupted in claps and cheers. People smiled, some even laughed, but she stood frozen, her tears refusing to stop. She was now a wife to a man old enough to be her father, a man she did not know, a man she did not love. The celebration around her felt unreal. Like a cruel play she was forced to perform in. As the evening continued, music played and guests enjoyed the feast. Plates of food were served and laughter filled the air. But the girl sat quietly beside her new husband, her face pale, her eyes distant. She hardly touched her food. She heard people whispering again, some saying, "She is lucky to marry into wealth," while others murmured, "Poor child." She had no choice. Every word cut into her heart. Her family came to her, smiling proudly, telling her to be strong. They believed they had done the right thing. They saw only the old man's wealth and stability, not the tears in their daughter's eyes. She wanted to scream at them, ask them why they chose money over her happiness, but her voice was locked inside. Instead, she lowered her head and let the tears fall silently. As night approached, the wedding celebrations slowly ended. Guests left with full stomachs and satisfied smiles, carrying stories they would whisper later. The girl, however, felt empty. Her heart was heavy, her spirit crushed. The old man gently took her hand, leading her away from the hall toward the home that was now hers. The crowd faded behind them, but her tears did not stop. She walked like someone moving toward an uncertain fate, every step echoing her sorrow. The world thought they had witnessed a wedding. But what truly happened that day was different. A girl's innocence was traded for security. Her laughter was replaced by silence. Her dreams were buried under the weight of duty. And yet, deep inside, a question remained unanswered. Who was this old man really? Why had he chosen her? Little did she know, the answer to that question would not only change her view of him, but also reveal a secret so powerful it would turn her tears into something else entirely. The wedding feast had ended, and the noise of music and laughter faded into the night. The girl sat in silence, her hands trembling, as the carriage carried her to the old man's house. Her tears had dried on her cheeks, but her heart still wept inside. Every sound of the wheels against the road reminded her that she was leaving everything behind: her childhood, her family, her freedom. When they arrived, the house was large and quiet. Its walls were tall, its windows dark, and its rooms filled with silence that made her uneasy. She had imagined cruelty waiting for her there. She expected him to demand, to command, to crush her spirit. But instead, the old man surprised her. He asked softly, "Are you tired?" His voice was calm, not harsh. She nodded, but she didn't speak. She feared him, yet she also noticed something unusual: his eyes did not carry greed or cruelty. They carried something else. The days that followed were strange. She prepared herself for suffering, but it did not come in the way she thought. The old man never shouted, never forced, never treated her harshly. He gave her space, allowed her to rest, and even brought her food with his own hands. She did not understand it. She thought perhaps it was a trick. Perhaps he was waiting for her to lower her guard. But as time passed, his kindness seemed real. Still, her heart was closed. She avoided his eyes, spoke only when necessary, and wept quietly at night. She felt like a bird locked in a golden cage. The house was comfortable, food was plenty, but her soul longed for freedom. She missed the simple laughter of her friends, the dreams she once had, and the feeling of being young without fear. One evening, as she sat near the window, staring at the moon, the old man approached her. He did not stand too close. He kept his distance, as if careful not to frighten her. "You think I stole your life?" he said softly. His words startled her because they were true. She turned her face away, not answering. He continued, "But one day you will understand why I chose you." The girl's mind filled with questions. Why had he chosen her? Out of all the young women in the village, why her? She thought perhaps it was her family's poverty that he had taken advantage of their desperation. She thought perhaps it was because she was young and he wanted someone to serve him until his last days. The thought filled her with anger, but she held it inside. As days turned into weeks, she began to notice more about him. He lived simply, despite his wealth. He did not spend his money on parties or luxuries. He spent hours reading old books, writing letters, and staring at faded photographs she could not understand. At times, she caught him looking at her not with desire, but with sorrow, as if she reminded him of something or someone he had lost long ago. The girl was torn between fear and curiosity. She still cried often, but her tears were now mixed with questions she could not answer. Was he hiding something? Why did his eyes soften whenever she spoke? Why did he treat her with more patience than she expected? One night, while she lay awake, she heard him coughing in the next room. The sound was heavy, painful, and it continued for a long time. She wondered if he was sick, if that was why his steps were slow and his body seemed weak. A thought entered her mind: was she not a wife, but a caretaker chosen to watch over a dying man? The idea unsettled her even more. The struggle she faced was not just with him, but with herself. Every time he showed kindness, her heart softened a little. Yet she quickly reminded herself, no, I cannot trust him. He is the reason I lost my freedom. She lived in a war between gratitude and resentment, between curiosity and fear. Her family visited rarely, and when they did, they acted proud, telling her she should be thankful. But they did not see the silent battles inside her. They did not see the tears she shed when no one was looking. The old man, however, seemed to notice. He never scolded her for crying. Instead, he left small gestures of care: a warm blanket folded neatly, sweet fruits placed on her table, a lamp lit outside her room so she would not fear the dark. He never asked for thanks. He only said once, in a quiet voice, "One day, the truth will set you free." Those words stayed with her. She did not know what truth he meant, but the way he said it made her shiver. For the first time, she felt that this marriage was not just about wealth, not just about age, but about something hidden, something that would change everything. Her silent struggle continued. She was still a girl, learning to live as a wife to an old man she did not love, still fighting against the cage she felt around her. But in the quiet corners of that house, in the gentle actions of the man she feared, something was slowly beginning to change. She could not explain it yet, but she sensed that the story of her life was not what she thought it was. And when the truth finally came to light, it would not only shock her, it would make her weep again. But for reasons she could never have imagined. The night was quiet, too quiet. The girl sat on the edge of the bed, her heart heavy with fear. This was the night she had dreaded since the wedding, the night when the old man would claim his rights as a husband. She trembled, her eyes wet with fresh tears, whispering silent prayers. She braced herself for the pain of losing the last piece of her innocence. But what happened next was nothing like what she had imagined. The old man entered the room slowly. His steps were careful, almost weak. He looked at her, not with hunger, but with sadness. He sat on the chair near the bed instead of beside her. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, in a voice that carried both weight and sorrow, he spoke. "You cry because you think I married you for selfish reasons. You think I wanted youth beside me to fill my emptiness? But you are wrong. Tonight, you deserve to know the truth." The girl's hands tightened on her lap. She looked at him with confusion. Truth? What truth? He sighed deeply, as if pulling a heavy secret from the depths of his soul. "I knew your parents many years ago. Long before you were even born, I made a promise that I could not keep until now. Your father was once like a brother to me. He saved my life in a time of war, when death was certain. I swore to him that if anything ever happened to his family, I would protect them as my own." Her eyes widened. No one had ever told her such a thing. She whispered, "My father? But he never spoke of you." The old man nodded. He wouldn't. Life separated us, poverty broke him, and shame kept him silent. But when your family's struggles grew, when your mother begged for help, I saw my promise returning to me. I knew I could not abandon you. I married you not to own you, but to guard you, to give you safety in a world that would have destroyed you. The girl sat frozen, unable to speak. Her tears flowed again, but this time they were not only from sorrow, they were from shock, from disbelief. The man continued, "I am old, yes. My days are shorter than yours. But I could not let your youth be thrown away to strangers who would harm you. This marriage was the only way I could stand between you and a darker fate. I have no desire to hurt you. My only wish is to keep my promise and give you a life better than the one you feared." His words fell into the silence like stones into deep water. The girl's heart raced. She had prepared herself for cruelty, But instead, she was given a truth that felt heavier than chains. She remembered every gentle act since the wedding: the food he brought, the blanket he folded, the soft way he looked at her. Suddenly, they all made sense, but she also felt torn. Could she forgive her parents for pushing her into this marriage without telling her the real reason? Could she believe this man's secret? And most of all, what did this mean for her future? The old man's voice broke her thoughts. "I know you may never love me as a husband. I do not ask for that. I only ask that you allow me to protect you, to guide you until you are strong enough to live freely. When that time comes, the choice will be yours, not mine. Not your parents', not anyone's. Yours." Her breath caught in her throat. For the first time since the wedding, she saw him not as a captor, but as a protector. He was not the monster she feared. He was a man bound by honor, by an old promise of loyalty. The room was quiet again, but the silence felt different now. Not heavy with fear, but heavy with truth. She lowered her head, tears dropping onto her hands. Her heart ached, not from anger, but from the weight of understanding. That night, she did not lose her innocence. Instead, she gained knowledge that would shape the rest of her life. She wept again, but her tears were no longer only of pain. They were tears of confusion, of shock, of a strange gratitude she could not yet explain. The world outside would never know the secret that was revealed between them that night. To the guests, it had been just another wedding between wealth and poverty. To her parents, it had been survival. But to the girl, 'twas the beginning of a truth she would carry forever, a truth that her tears at the altar were not the end of her story, but the doorway to a destiny she never imagined.